Hey, it's Alex Radcliffe from BoardGameCo, and today we are doing another Kickstarter roundup, another series of, I believe, 11 different Kickstarters that we'll be covering this week, some more in depth than others, some quick overviews, and in fact, some of these are getting their own dedicated videos. In fact, 3 of these are getting their own dedicated videos, so it's going to be an action-packed week. I'm going to have to see how I do that, but I believe on Thursday, as of now on Thursday, there will be 3 videos for 3 Kickstarters going up the same day. I've never done 3 videos in one day. We'll see how it plays out, whether it's worth it or not. In any case, from there, they'll all be shorter, by the way. They're going to be in, hopefully they'll be in the 10-minute range or so. I haven't filmed them. I have a bad habit of going on for longer than I think I will or would have gone on for, but we'll see. In any case, starting off with the easy one, Cafe Chaos. Okay. This is another one in that line of a popular illustrator of some sort who has a following already, puts out a game, and makes a lot of money from it, which I have no problem with. Good for him. Good for, I believe it's him, James Allison. Good for him. Very happy for him. Great. Awesome. It's another one of those exploding kittens or whatever it is. What's that other one? Trial by Trolley, whatnot. Basically, very popular illustrator, puts out game with minimal gameplay depth, but very popular to a mass market audience, which is ultimately who he's selling to. Which means, basically, for anyone watching this video, if you're watching this video, it's going to fall under the, no, don't back it, it just doesn't make sense to back it. In general, these games, they tend to have really escalating price levels because they are catering to people who aren't balancing a million Kickstarters and trying to figure out where to put their money. Rather, they are catering to people who like the art, like the world, like the whatever, and are potentially willing to drop $250 on a bunch of swag or whatnot. So it's a whole different market to begin with. But if you're actually interested in the gameplay, it seems to be a very light game. But if you're actually interested in the gameplay, ultimately what you usually end up with is a situation where you have 7,200 backers who are, getting this game, and it's going to be easy to get this game later after the fact for less than whatever you paid for. The retail edition will obviously be cheaper if there goes to retail, and anything else will just be flooded in the secondhand market. In general, these games are just never worth backing on Kickstarter if you're doing it from the stance of the value proposition. If you're trying to look at it from a monetary stance, it generally makes no sense to back them. From there, let's go to Growl, which is kind of the opposite in price point. So, Growl, Madness, and Plagues. Now, I will say off the bat, I'm going to say, very impressed with these people. I've never actually followed their stuff. I'm not aware of the previous Growl game, but I'm very impressed with their pricing. They are a small publisher offering fairly competitive pricing, which I'm not used to seeing. I'm used to, sadly, being a bit of a bad guy when it comes to small publishers. My content generally is not small publisher friendly because I'm focused on the value. I'm focused on, does it make sense to back it or not or now, although now is when you back it. But I tend to be focused on the back it or not, the financial stance, and that means small publishers I'm generally not that friendly to. That being said, I took a look at the pricing of this is an expansion to Growl. This is Growl, Madness, and Plagues. It actually looks fairly interesting. If you looked into Growl, it's this interesting, spreading the werewolfness to other players and figuring out whatnot. And the Madness and Plagues things, I don't know how it would actually play out. I will say it looks like it would actually be entertaining. Could be completely off base, but that is somewhat irrelevant to the fact that their original Kickstarter, their game is priced pretty decently in terms of their original Kickstarter compared to being able to get the game later. Priced pretty decently. The expansion is available for $5 plus $3 shipping, which is excellent. I mean, worst case scenario, you're losing $8. Worst case scenario there. And they also offer the actual base game as well. They have a bunch of pledge levels over here, but everything's being offered very competitively priced. I do not imagine this will be undercut in any retail option. This basically, look at this, $5 for the expansion. And granted, it's a deck of cards effectively, but still, $5 with $3 shipping, nothing on Kickstarter is that cheap, even when it's a deck of cards. For the Madness and Plagues thing, we have $19, and for the Growl basic box, you have $20. Overall, it does seem to be fairly decently priced. It's not like an amazing savings, don't get me wrong, but they are being fairly competitive to what you'll be able to get it for later. And that is basically Growl. From there, we have the Belgian Beers Race. Now, this is a tough one for a variety of reasons. So, offhand, well, we'll go through it. Okay, so 613 backers, 49,000 raised. I'm super happy they're funded. In general, when I have medium or less good news, I'm usually happy they're funded. I always want people to succeed. I want them to do well. This game is kind of a hybrid of a gateway game and a gamer's game in terms of what it's trying to do. It has roll and move elements to it, but it also has more of a balancing factor of how to utilize those movement points in different ways while you go on this kind of hitchhiking, beer tasting adventure. Looks intriguing theme-wise. It's definitely pulling in a theme that's nice. Doing fairly well considering where it's at. $49,000 for a first-time creator created. It's good, seems to be doing pretty decently overall. The cost of the game is the first reason I'm surprised it's doing as well as it is given the cost. $50 or $60, 50 euro or $60 for a game from a first-time creator that is equivalent to like a $30 game in general. It's, you know, I'm not sure what the following they have going on here is, but good for them. The problem is it is fairly not overpriced. It is fairly high priced compared to a standard typical entry point game when you're buying some sort of game online. And this is the deluxe box, which comes with the core box, plus comes with a fabric bag, 2 breweries, 4 player boards, and 140 cubes, 35 of each player color. So that's for $60 or $77 offhand. The problem is the pricing gets even worse once you look at the shipping. The shipping for Zone A, which does not include US, it's Austria, Belgium, Netherlands, Portugal, Spain, United Kingdom. I'm skipping a few, but you can get a feel for over here. That's another 12 euro. And the shipping to Zone B, which includes USA, is another 23 euro, which makes this a fairly expensive game. Even no matter where you are, it's a fairly expensive game, and it's for sure more expensive if you're in US or if you're in any of the other zones that make it even worse. So it's fairly expensive for what you're getting here. In terms of what you're getting here, the game comes with this. It's a fairly typical game. You know, you got the cubes, you got tokens, you know, whatever, the dice, tokens, board, cards. Nothing phenomenally amazing here. This does seem to be, it's a fine game, nothing wrong with it. It just seems to be fairly expensive for what you're getting. And additionally, and this is the part that's a little sad, I guess, which is, if you've watched my channel before, you know that I look into testimonials. Maybe I'm being paranoid, I don't know, but I read every single testimonial to see what they are actually saying in the testimonial. Are they saying something nice, or are they just saying nothing? And most of the testimonials, with one exception, were just saying nice things. They weren't saying anything amazing. Look at this. It's a very refreshing project led by a friendly, motivated team. It's great, but it's not a testimonial to how amazing this game is and why you should back it. It's a game where the mechanics are worked and numerous, the theme is strong and well represented. It's not a testimonial that tells me to back the game. In fact, the only testimonial from all of these that said that I should back it was this one right here. TBPR was my favorite of the BGF19 without being an expert game. It forced us to think about a lot of things. So granted, even this one, depending on how small the festival is, could be taken. But if you look through all the testimonials, most of them do not say this game is amazing. They say nice things. It's like a hybrid of a gamer's game and a non-gamer's game. It approaches new things. It has an interesting theme. A lot of stuff that does not make me feel particularly confident that as a gamer, this is for me. It might pull a lot of people into the hobby. It has a refreshing theme. Refreshing, that's funny. It has a refreshing theme that may pull people into the hobby. It clearly has funded, so meaning I would not expect it I would not have expected it to have funded to this degree. So I already am clearly missing something, which is awesome. I love it when things do well when I wouldn't have thought they would. I want the best for everyone. Overall, as far as whether you would get your money back on this one, whether it's a good back, it's a tough one. On the one hand, it's a small print run with limited availability. This might be your best and only option to get it. There's not going to be a ton of copies in the secondhand market. It's got 10 days to go. Maybe best case you're ending at 1,000 back or somewhere in that range. Not going to be a ton of copies available to buy. This might be your best opportunity to get this game. As far as whether you'll be able to get your money back selling this on the secondhand market, I am skeptical you will. So it's one of those, I've talked about this in the past, it's one of those where it's a small enough one that even though it might be overpriced comparatively speaking, it still might be the best opportunity for you to get it, and that is Belgian's Beer Race. Next up from there we have Die of the Dead. Die of the Dead is another refreshing theme. Well, this one's not refreshing as in beer, this one is, well, I guess maybe it's a depressing theme. I don't know what you want to call this. This is Dios de los Muertos. I'm sure I said that horribly. I barely speak English, let alone any other language. Die of the Dead is one that has an interesting theme in which you are basically putting these dice into caskets, managing the dice as they go through different actions, different manipulation as they move through the caskets, and then trying to get them up this stairway over here to achieve the objectives and win the game. The price point of the game is £27 for the game, based off a £40 MSRP. So, to begin with, that a £40 MSRP you can expect to see somewhere in the £32 to £35 at retail. Somewhere in that range. It's going to vary by retailer, of course, but let's assume let's call it, you know, £34 or something like that. If you can get a £34 at retail, then that £34 plus shipping, because shipping factored in, even the cheapest shipping is, well, cheapest shipping is UK. If you're in the US, it's another, well, both these are both £8. So £8 plus your 34 brings you to £42 is what it would cost. No, I did that wrong. £27 for the game, plus your £8 brings you to £35 cost to you as a backer. If you would have bought it at retail, it would have cost you potentially around $34 with free shipping and whatnot. Taxes you have to factor in as well as any currency conversion. Whenever you're backing a Kickstarter, there's often a currency fee or whatnot, whenever it's a different country or whatnot. So you're basically looking at roughly the same price. Not a good price, not a bad price. It's basically the same price, and from what they've said, it's basically the retail versus Kickstarter copies are the same. So, should you back it? Well, if you're not that risk averse to the fact that you may not like it, sure. If you want to support the creators, go for it. If you're pulled in by the theme, by all means. This is neither a good back nor a bad back financially, which means you have to take into account all those other reasons why we back Kickstarters, not least of which is sometimes we just want a game. Sometimes we want something that appeals to us, and when it's a neutral back like this, it's not the worst. Will you get your money back if you try to sell it? I'm skeptical. I think if you're comparing it to the new cost at retail and you're coming out even, then I don't think you'll be able to get your money back when you're reselling a used copy, factoring the shipping costs. So in terms of resellability, I don't think you will get your money back if you don't like it. In terms of comparing it to your options to get it later at retail, basically comes out somewhat neutral, so make a decision accordingly, and good luck to the creators. From there, we have Mercado de Lisboa. Mercado de Lisboa is the first of 3 Kickstarters I'm covering today, which I will be doing a full but short video for later this week. So to that end, I will not be covering this in detail. In fact, I'll actually have a review coming as well, so we'll talk about that. But in terms of this campaign, the short cliff notes of this are very similar to Die of the Dead. The price on this is rough, and again, I'll go into it in a full video, I'll cover all the points, but the price, the value proposition now, compared to getting it later, is roughly equitable, give or take a few bucks, and give or take whether you value the promotional item they are giving for someone who owns Lisboa. So it's a bit of a, not a bad back, not a good back, it depends on your exact value system, what you're looking at, but if you want to back it, go ahead, and if you want more information, go ahead and watch my full video on it coming later this week. From there, we have Galaxy Hunters, another one that is getting a full video, dedicated video later this week, which will, again, if you don't want to watch that video, or if you just want a quick conclusion now, the short version is this is a tough one. It is an expensive game, likely overpriced for the gameplay experience you are getting out of it. Think monumental, think in that range where you're getting a ton of extras, a ton of bling for what is ultimately a typical worker placement game with nothing phenomenally amazing. As far as the value proposition, it gets a little tricky because they have a bunch of Kickstarter exclusives that significantly increase your content. So you definitely can't get some of these stuff at retail, so it makes it an unfair comparison to retail. As far as the secondhand market and whether it holds its value, it's a tough one. It kind of depends on how well the game is received and how much people dump their copies. Ultimately, I believe it is kind of overpriced, but also possibly your best opportunity to get a lot of exclusive content that you might not be able to get later. And again, more in detail on a video coming later this week. From there, we have Ivion, the hero. I have no clue if I'm saying that correctly. Is it Ivion? Ivion? I don't know. But either way, the Herocrafting card game. Now, to start with, what does Herocrafting mean? Because I think it's actually worth explaining, because I personally was pulled in by the concept of Herocrafting, and I kind of just ignored that term until I actually looked through the FAQ and whatnot. So that term is not a deck building game, not in the slightest. What it is it's more akin to Smash Up. Each hero has different elements that you can pick, that you can combine them together to create a hero, to craft a hero. So it's akin to Smash Up, except you're combining 3 elements. So it's kind of deck building, but kind of not, because you're picking these pre-packaged segments, combining them together, and ending up with a game that you can play. Ultimately, this one is interesting. So first of all, it has not yet funded, 16,000 out of 28, 17 days to go, which means you can be a part of actually making this a success. Now, I will note, this is actually based on they already have content out from the first version that was already produced. So this game was available, or is available, you can buy it on Amazon or whatnot. So there are reviews on this game, and the reviews, it's one of those tough ones where the reviews are simultaneously super positive. It's also a small number of reviews, so you have to question. When a game has 20 reviews and they're mostly 8s and 9s and 10s, you do have to question how many of those are just people who are friends with the creator, have played the game, they're like, again, small sample sizes are bad in general. That's what it comes down to. That being said, Dice Tower did a review, which you should look at. You should definitely look at the Dice Tower review. I believe they had a tabletop simulator. Let me check. I'm pretty sure they had a tabletop simulator of this game available. Let me see if we can find it here. But Dice Tower had a review, so you can look into that. They may or may not have had, give me a second. I'm just going to pause this over here. Alright, here we go. I just didn't want to scroll through the whole page making you wait. But here we go. Right now in Tabletop Simulator, they do have a fully supported module to play. So I'm always a fan when companies do that. It means they stand behind their game. They believe that you can try it, give it a shot. You don't have to rely on some degree of FOMO. You still have to download Tabletop Simulator. Maybe you will, maybe you won't. So ultimately, Tabletop Simulator available, previous game available, well-reviewed game already. Tom Vassell, I believe, gave it a seal of approval, not of excellence, so it's good, not great. And overall positive feedback in a two-player game that looks interesting. Should you back it, should you not? So, and I will note for myself, I am not backing it because, speaking for myself, I have found two-player competitive experiences, no matter how intrigued I am by the concept, in practice they don't hit the table because I find you need a regular opponent to play the games in order to learn the systems. Now, card crafting, hero crafting as opposed to deck building would make it slightly more accessible. I'm still skeptical that for me it would actually hit the table. And I will note, because I'm on the screenshot over here, it comes with game trace. But as far as the game, it's $39 per option. They have 6 heroes, so you can get $39 for each option. You can buy another one for $39, or you can just pay $99 and get everything, or $129 and get everything and all the content prior. So, that's a lot of content, but for a fairly expensive price, comparatively speaking. It depends what you're comparing this to. If you're comparing this to an MTG dual starter pack, well, it's overpriced. If you're comparing it to the fact that it's not MTG and it has a smaller, productions, core, whatnot, and you're basically paying for the creation of the game as well as other things, $39 for a 2-deck system, it's a hard one. It still seems to be expensive, especially once you factor in shipping. But at the end of the day, if you want this game, if you're intrigued by this game, if you've played the Tabletop Simulator and like this game, this might be your best opportunity to get this game at an affordable price. But yeah, it's a bit of a toss-up. This falls into that small print size option. You're unlikely to see your money back reselling this. There's just not enough of a demand of an audience. But if you're interested, if you want to support the creator, if you're pulled in by yourself and you just want to treat yourself, by all means, go ahead and back Ivion, something like that. From there, we have Antimatter. Antimatter is doing fairly well, $82,000 on a $30,000 goal, 656 backers. I've had a ton of people request that I cover this one, so I'm covering it now. This is a weird one. It is absolutely bizarre. So this is poker meets, it's right here, a cosmic mashup of poker and space strategy. And they mean it. This game has 2 phases. One with a fascinating, pick up and deliver aspects and moving planets. I think it was pick up and deliver, I'm not sure. Moving planets, a beautiful board. This board is absolutely beautiful. They have literal planets over here that rotate around the board, and you manipulate the engines and the systems, the mechanics. And then you go from there to a poker phase with a literal deck of cards plus abilities. Which is bizarre. I mean, I'm not saying it's a bad thing, I'm just saying it's bizarre. And we'll come to a few things. I'll come to my opinion short. Well, let's cover that. So, for me personally, I'm already out. Just plain and simple. And I'll tell you why. But not value. We'll cover value shortly. First, I'm talking about my opinion. So, I'm already out because you just took a game and added poker to it. If I wanted to play poker, I would play poker. It doesn't mean you can't pull into the game, and it doesn't mean there's not an audience. Clearly, there is. It's at $80,000 so far, and it might be a great thing, which we'll come to shortly. For me, it's doing the opposite of what Mercado de Lisboa is doing. Mercado de Lisboa is taking an aspect of gaming from the game Lisboa and making its own full game out of that one element. This is doing the exact opposite. It's taking a game, poker, and then building another game around it and adding it in as a huge function of the game. So if you like poker, that might be a great thing, which leads us to the great thing. I don't like poker, by the way. I have nothing against it. I just find that, for me, the only stakes of poker are if money's on the table, and I don't like gambling. So, and if you're playing without money, I just don't enjoy poker. In fact, fun fact, one of my friends, and I always appreciate it when he put it this way, one of my friends said that the thing that pulled him into gaming, he wasn't a gamer, I pulled him in, he said the thing that got him going is he felt board games give you the tense, I need to win driven mentality that poker gives you, but without the money. And he doesn't like gambling either, so that's why he loves board games. And I agree, by the way. Poker, for me, without the money, there's no tenseness at all, personally speaking. With the money, lots of tenseness, but now you're gambling. In any case, as someone who's not interested in poker, so that pulls me out of this game. It might end up being a great game that pulls a lot of people into the hobby for the exact reasons that I don't like it. If you have someone who does love poker, in fact, if you have someone who's an addicted gambler, you can take this however far you want, you might be able to pull them into the gaming hobby, into our tabletop hobby, by selling them on a game that has poker. Oh, this game is poker. It's basically poker with another phase at the beginning, but then you just play a hand of poker. That might pull people in. Again, it still sounds weird, but it has successfully pulled in 656 people so far. Seems beautifully produced, which is great. And yeah, that's the overview start. In terms of the should you back it, it's a bit of a toss-up. And it's going to fall into that. This might be your best opportunity, but I doubt you'll see the resale value you want. So if you buy this game, the pledge levels are $60 or $120 to get the game. I think there's a $200 collector's edition that gives you like posters and T-shirts, art book. But in terms of gameplay or deluxeified components, you're basically looking at the $60 or the $120 are your options there. And that is fairly expensive for what you're getting here, plus another $15 shipping to US and variable rates for other countries. And that's decently expensive for what you're getting here. Combined with that, what's the reason to back this game now as opposed to retail? And the answer there is stretch goals that they kind of made up along the way. Now, what I mean by that is they initially had a stretch goal of you get a comic, and people didn't seem to care that much about the comic, which is usually what happens when people put out comic stretch goals in a board game community, which is nothing against comics. It's just that people tend to not care about that as much as a stretch goal as much. So they kind of have a bunch of updates about this, but they pivoted a lot, came up with stuff, making stuff up on the fly. The good news there is it means you're definitely getting a fully baked game. That's the good news. The bad news is it also means that you're definitely not missing out on anything that's even remotely essential if you want to wait to retail. If you want to see whether this is a game for you and just buy it at retail for fairly cheaper, then that is not a bad thing to do. What are some of the stretch goals we have so far? We have a few extra cards, we have a custom poker mat, and I'm focusing more on the exclusive items. We have a new faction deck, but I'm focusing on the exclusive ones, and we have metal cargo pieces. All these are not bad. They certainly add to the value, and if you're interested in this game, keep an eye on where it goes. Keep an eye on where this game goes, what they add, whether it does enough to push you over if you're not already backing. Overall, it looks beautiful. And the deluxeified edition, it comes with, like, extra, what is the deluxeified edition? It comes with, metal planets and ceramic chips and beautiful. The art, again, this game is absolutely gorgeous. I think it's visually stunning, which might be why it's doing so well. It's visually stunning, and it's laid back. It's not in your face over the top. It's very reserved and elegant and well done in how nice this game looks. I like it a lot. For me personally, I'm not pulled in because of the poker element, and in terms of the overall price compared to retail, I'm not sure there's enough there to pull me in, but again, everyone is different, and that is Antimatter. So just to be clear on Antimatter, it's not the worst back, but also I don't think it's going to hold its value compared to getting it later. Next up, we have Way of the Samurai. Now, this is a pretty easy one, primarily because it's Kickstarter exclusive and it's not super well known. So that, without even going into the game more, what that effectively means is when a game is completely Kickstarter exclusive and it doesn't have a huge amount of backers, what you ultimately end up with, and especially at the price point here, the price point is, $29 for the base game plus the expansion, and $9 for just the expansion. €9. Sorry, euros. €9 and 29 euros. I said dollars and pounds, it's euros. Now, this is actually an expansion for the game. You can get the base game as well, but because it is Kickstarter exclusive and because it is a small batch printing, ultimately what you're looking at is, combine that with the price point again, combine that with the price point, what you're looking at is your best bet is either back in the Kickstarter, getting it now and done and over with, or hoping that you can get on the secondary market and you'll save a few bucks, but once you factor in shipping, because shipping will be on the secondary market as well, you're likely not saving much, if anything at all. So it falls into that category again. Is it a game that you'll be able to resell for what you paid for it? No, highly doubtful. You will not get your money back. Is it a game that this is might be the best opportunity for you to get it at this price point? Yes, it is, because of, not available in retail stores and whatnot. And that is Way of the Samurai. Next up, we have Streets. Streets is the third one that is getting a dedicated video. Streets is getting its own dedicated video again later this week, probably Thursday, putting 3 videos, putting Streets, Galaxy Truckers, and Mercado all up at the same time, hopefully under 10-minute time frames each. Hopefully, we'll see. What is the short conclusion of Streets? Pretty much similar to the rest. Streets is not a bad back, not a particularly amazing back. There is a promo pack here to incentivize you to get it now. If you're comparing it to getting retail, you're talking about, once you factor in shipping costs, once you factor that in, you're basically looking at roughly the same price point, perhaps saving a few dollars by waiting to get it for retail. But by backing it now, you are getting a promo pack, you are getting, you're supporting the creators, which is definitely not a bad thing, and you'll be getting it earlier than everyone else. The price differential is fairly minimal. If you are already a fan of Villagers, if you want that matching box, if you want similar gameplay, then by all means check it out. And if you want to check out reviews, Rado has a review up. Someone else, Polyhedron Collider, I believe it was, had a review up that was less positive. It was medium, less positive. Factor those into your decision, then factor all those things into your decision. The game looks stunning, but I will come back to that. I'm going more into detail. I will come back into that, cover it more in detail in my full video later this week. Which brings us to the last one of the group, Shards of the Jaguar. Shards of the Jaguar. Okay, this is a tough one. It is not funded. This is a reprinting of their first Kickstarter, which had a different name, but same basic gameplay. They've polished it up. They've improved it visually. They gave it a better name. It likely will fund. Given 16,000, 24 days to go, $23,000 goal, this likely will fund. That's the good news. In terms of whether to get it, it's going to fall. I mean, this day is basically all the same pattern. So far today, we basically have a ton of this is not going to hold its value when you sell it, but it might be your best opportunity to get it now. And this squarely falls into that category again. With 286 backers, I don't imagine it's going to have a particularly strong, as of right now, maybe we hit 500 by the time it ends, who knows. I don't imagine this will have a particularly strong retail presence. And for the price point, you're basically paying £55, sorry, where is it? £45 or 45 euro, again, 45 euro, $54, or 55 euro, $66 to get the game and or the game plus the second trial pack, which comes with a cooperative module. What is this game? This is one where basically the game over here is it's a bit of a temple run kind of situation with, not temple run the app, it's a bit of a temple dive where you go to the temple, you try to get all the things you need for points, but you have to be very wary of traps. This is all about setting traps on each other the whole game, which is an intriguing concept. If pulled off well, that could be a good thing. The problem is I'm skeptical that it actually is pulled off well for a variety of reasons. First of all, this testimonial, again, like I said before, this is a weak testimonial. It's very, I've not quite played anything like this. I like the traps and how they go off is not the best testimonial. Meaning, there's a way, if you're doing Kickstarter content and you like a game, if you're doing previews and you like a game and you want to give the publisher something to sell the game, give them a firm testimonial. I love this game. I can't wait to add it to my collection. This blew my mind. Now, you can't always do that, and I respect that. But if you do like the game, give a solid testimonial, because there are lots of people like myself who look at those testimonials and read into them. At the same time, if you're a publisher, I would recommend being wary of putting medium testimonials into your project. It could just be that I'm the minority and people watching my channel are the minority and most people don't care and they just see something nice. It could very well be. But the Kickstarter as a platform is continuing to grow. Kickstarter as a platform will only get bigger, and more people, especially as people continue to back things that don't work for them, as people continue to back things that show up on their doorstep and they don't like the game and they just wasted money in it, people will become more consumer savvy the more time goes on. Factor those things into your decisions, both as a creator, as a content creator, as a publisher. All those things are important. As far as the game itself, it actually looks pretty intriguing. Assuming I'm not reading into it, assuming it's actually an amazing game, this could be great. But like I said, small print run, small amount of support, not a ton of whatever for this game. It is one that falls into that category, like I said in the beginning. If you are already interested, and I'm losing my mindset, pause, no edits. This might be your best opportunity to get this game at a reasonable price, but it is also not one that will hold its value when you try to resell it. There, I got it. That is basically it. That is everything today. 11 games, 3 with a dedicated video coming later this week. I believe next week is going to have some more pickup action. We have a bunch of solid things coming in the next months ahead. We have 7 Citadel, more games. Let me see what we have. We have a bunch of stuff. We have 7 Citadel. We have, I don't know, a bunch of stuff. I can't figure out. I have a list somewhere, but it's going to be action-packed. And until next time, I'm Alex Radcliffe, and I hope you have a good one.